Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back. Granola, hello. Master Pimp Lord, welcome back. Um, ooh, Ophelia Call. Hope everyone's having a good Monday. um, this was not the planned stream. Um, but we'll get into it. It's fine, no big deal. I do want to start with something less sad first. Um, we got a new book. We have a new book for the collection. Um, Billy Bollweevil, A Pest Becomes a Hero. So, one of my really good friends at work stopped working with us last week. Um, her fiance, who was also one of my very good friends, got a job or got a PhD position in fucking Arizona, of all places. Um, and my boss gave my friend who was leaving a copy of this book. I thought he only had the copy that he keeps on his desk, like out for people to read while they're waiting for him. No, no, he just opened up a cabinet and there's just a row of these things. So after he gave one to my friend, I went into his office the next day and I was like, "Hey, uh you're going to retire before I leave this job. So could I maybe get me one of them Billy Bollweevils?" So, we have our new Billy Bollweevil book. It was published in 1976 by Hugh Maddox, and it's not very long, so we shall read it together. Several of you, at least somebody, I think, knows the story already. Billy Bollweevil was an insect. He lived on a cotton farm. The farmer did not like Billy Bollweevil. "Go," he said. The farmer's wife did not like Billy Bollweevil. "Go," she said. The farmer's son did not like Billy Bollweevil. "Go," he said. The farmer's daughter did not like Billy Bollweevil. "Go," she said. Billy Bollweevil was sad. The farmer did not like him. The farmer's wife, the farmer's son, and the farmer's daughter did not like him. He began to cry. We already have a Weevil sad emote is crazy. Hi, Sam. Billy Weevil's mother saw him crying. "Do not cry, Billy," Mama Bullweevil said. "But nobody likes me," Billy cried. "All of the farmers hate me," he said. Mama Bullweevil listened. "Why do the farmers hate me?" Billy asked. "You are an insect, Billy. You stick your bill in the farmers' cotton bolls and kill them." A grasshopper came by and saw Billy Bullweevil crying. "Why are you crying?" the grasshopper asked. "Because the farmer, the farmer's wife, the farmer's son, and the farmer's daughter hate me." "Do you know why they hate me?" Billy Bullweevil asked. Yes, said the grasshopper. I know why the farmer hates you. The farmer grows only cotton, and you eat his cotton. Billy Bull Weevil was sadder than ever. He did not know what to do. He saw a dog. The dog was the farmer's friend. He would ask the dog, "Hello, dog," Billy Bull Weevil said. The dog growled. "You don't like me either?" Billy Bull Weevil asked. "No," the dog said. "I am friend of the farmer and his family. You are an insect. You eat the farmer's cotton. That is the reason nobody likes you." How could Billy Bull Weevil become the farmer's friend? He thought, Grandfather Bull Weevil is wise. He likes me. He will know how I can make the farmer like me. He found Grandfather Weevil on a boll of cotton. "Grandfather," he said, "I want the farmer's family to like me. What can I do?" "That is a good question, Billy Bull Weevil. People do not like insects," Grandfather Bull Weevil. "But, Grandfather, isn't there just one little thing I could do to make the farmers like me?" Billy Bull Weevil asked. "I don't know," said Grandfather Bull Weevil. "Let's ask the worm." Grandfather Bull Weevil and Billy Bull Weevil went to go see the worm. "What will make the farmer like Billy Bull Weevil?" Grandfather asked the worm. "I don't know," said the worm. "The farmer doesn't like me either. Why don't you ask the bug?" Grandfather Weevil and Billy Bull Weevil went to see the bug. "What will make the farmer like Billy Bull Weevil?" Grandfather Weevil asked the bug. "I don't know," said the bug. "The farmer does not like me either. Why don't you ask the bee?" Grandfather Bull Weevil and Billy Bull Weevil went to go see the bee. "What will make the farmer like Billy Bull Weevil?" Grandfather Weevil asked the bee. "Oh, that's easy," buzzed the bee. "Be a helpful insect, do something good, like making honey." I don't really know what type of bug the bug is supposed to be, but, here we are. But Billy Bull Weevil cannot make honey. Bull Weevils eat cotton balls. I don't know Billy Bull Weevil. I know Billy Bull Weevil cannot make honey like I do, but he could tell the farmer to plant some peanuts instead of so much cotton. Boll weevils do not eat peanuts. People like peanuts, peanut butter, and peanuts in candy. The farmer's wife could use peanut oil to cook her food. The farmer's family would like Billy Boll Weevil then. "Thank you, Bee," said Grandfather Weevil. "We will tell the farmer to plant some peanuts instead of so much cotton." Grandfather Weevil then told Billy to go and tell the farmer to plant peanuts instead of cotton. Billy Boll Weevil was afraid. He did not want to go first and see the farmer. He knew the farmer did not like him. "But I am afraid to go see the farmer," said Billy Boll Weevil. "Will you go with me, Grandfather?" "No, Billy. The farmer does not like me. Ask the bee to go with you. The farmer likes the bee." "Then I will ask the bee," said Billy Boll Weevil. Billy Boll Weevil went to see the bee. "Will you go with me to see the farmer? The farmer likes you." Yes, I will go with you, said the bee. Billy Bull Weevil smiled. When can we go? Right now, said the bee. Crawl on my back and we will fly straight over there, straight as a beeline. Straight over there, straight as a beeline, Billy Bull Weevil said. The bee and Billy Bull Weevil arrived at the farmer's house. Farmer, said the bee, Billy Bull Weevil is a friend of mine. He wants to be your friend. He can be my friend if he will quit eating my cotton bolls and destroying my cotton, said the farmer. Billy Bull Weevil has something to tell you about planting so much cotton, the bee told the farmer. What do you have to tell? The farmer asked Billy Bull Weevil. Billy Bull Weevil was frightened. He was shaking all over. Plant peanuts instead of cotton, Billy Bull Weevil said. Plant peanuts instead of cotton? The farmer asked. Plant peanuts instead of cotton, Billy Bull Weevil said. Plant peanuts instead of cotton, the bee said. Billy Bull Weevil then jumped on the back of the bee and flew home. Thank you for the follow. The next spring, the farmer planted peanuts instead of cotton. The farmer told all his friends that Billy Bull Weevil had told him to plant peanuts. They planted peanuts too. The peanut vines grew. Early in the morning, little yellow blooms appeared on the vines. By sundown, however, the yellow blooms had withered and the flower stalks turned into a peg. The peg grew, turned downward, and within a week had pushed its way into the ground. When the peg was fully mature, it became a peanut, a goober, a pindar, or a ground pea, depending on what one wished to call it. In the fall, the farmer took his peanuts to market. He made lots of money. The farmer was very happy. The farmer's wife was happy. She liked to cook with peanut oil. The farmer's son had lots of peanut butter. He was happy. The farmer's daughter also had lots of peanut butter. She was happy. The farmer found the bee. Bring Billy Bull Weevil back to see me, he said. All right, said the bee. I will go straight and find him and bring him back to see you. The bee found Billy Bull Weevil, and they flew back to see the farmer. The farmer told Billy Bull Weevil that he and all the other farmers wanted to do something special for him because he had taught them to plant peanuts instead of so much cotton. We are going to have a special day, Peanut Day, just for you. We also have a big surprise for you, the farmer said. Peanut Day came. People lined the streets to see the parade. Everyone wanted to see Billy Bull Weevil's big surprise. Billy Bull Weevil was at the head of the parade. Bands played, people smiled and clapped their hands. It was a happy day for Billy Bull Weevil. When the parade was over, it was time for the big surprise. What would the surprise be? Billy Bull Weevil could hardly wait. The children wondered what the surprise would be. It was a monument to Billy Bull Weevil. The words on the monument said, Billy Bull Weevil was a hero. Lyndon figured it out right before the end. So this is based on a true story, more or less. Um, the whole idea here, that the farmers would plant peanuts instead of cotton, led to the city of Enterprise, Alabama, unveiling the Boll Weevil Monument on December 11th, 1919. The inscription on the monument reads, "In profound appreciation of the boll weevil and what it has done for the herald as the herald of prosperity, this monument was erected by the citizens of Enterprise, Coffee County, Alabama." So, for those of you that might not be aware, this is a real statue in the middle of downtown Enterprise, Alabama. Open up. So this is real. This is the boll weevil statue, and she's holding up this little pedestal here that has a boll weevil on top of it. Me, what I find it cool. Yeah, did it. But Enterprise, Alabama, the city that did this, was very heavily cotton invested, and they were losing money, losing money, losing money because the uh, boll weevil, Boll, uh, it feeds in the bowl of the cotton, which is like the little flower bud before it opens up and becomes actual cotton. And so these weevils are a huge problem if you're only growing cotton. This city ended up diversifying, and they made, uh and to put it into like layman's terms, a metric fuck ton of money on peanuts. Um, all of the other cities around them stayed with the cotton product and lost tons of money, but because they had taken the initiative and replanted peanut instead of cotton, they made so much bank that they were like, you know what? We're gonna make a statue of this guy. It is on the city's flag as well. Yeah, yeah, casual. Um, so this is the main statue downtown. This is the one that the book was kind of written after and talked about. However, this city went all in on their boll weevil theming. Long Evites, thank you for the follow. So not only do they have the weevil statue, but they also have all of these uh different boll weevil like city markers. I've seen other places that do this. Like there's a place in North Carolina that does clams. I've been to a city that does horses and things like that. But Enterprise, Alabama has these boll weevil statues around. And so they have one at a daycare, they've got it at the fire station, there's a pharmacy, there's a cop. This is the mayor Weevil here, with his big key. Ronald McWeevil is amazing, yes. They just recently, where did he go? Maybe it wasn't on. Here it is. They just added a new Hamburglar McWeevil. This is their newest one, as far as I am aware. I think there's something like 30 of these things now. The human mouth on the weevil is pretty fucked up. Now that you mention it. Now that you mention it, not great. Um, but yeah, they have them all around the city, all because of the boll weevil. And I think this is quite fun. You should put a giant weevil statue in your backyard. No one's stopping him, Master Pimp Lord. Um, Rebecca, hello. Welcome in. And I saw Inky came in during story time. Afton, hello. Masked Hunter, he was in your dishwasher. Don't know. Don't know why he was in your dishwasher. But this is Enterprise Alabama at its finest. They have all of these fun statues around, and in October, I think, they do a boll weevil like fall festival. I think it started off initially as like Peanut Day or whatever they called it in the book. But it has morphed into a specific like downtown boll weevil festival. So, anyone's bored in November, check out Enterprise Alabama. Nightmare of the Supply Chain of Rice. Yeah, Cytophilus definitely are. Those are the rice weevils specifically. This one only eats cotton, but that's a big problem if you are in fact a cotton farmer. So that was the fun part 1 of the stream. Hope everyone enjoyed it. But now to get into the maybe less fun side of things. Ophelia called it. There has in fact somebody has passed away. And this wasn't the stream I was planning to do today. Billy Boll Weevil was always going to be in it. But my plan was to finish going through Bug Soup from last time. But a friend of mine, an older guy, one of the world authorities in this group, passed away over the weekend. And I found out today, which, you know, it never gets easier. He was quite old, so never unexpected, but never easy. So today, instead of what we were going to do, I want to look at blister beetles. I think that would be a good way to share Jeff's excitement about all this stuff with you guys. So we'll look at some cool beetles today. Over. Get ready. Okay. So, for those of you that don't know, who haven't been here for back in the day when pre-chat chats existed, um where we were talking about specific identification things for specific groups, um I think we did actually just get a Meloid that showed up like right at the end of chat chats last weekend or last week. But this, for all intents and purposes, is a blister beetle. It is the family Meloidae, which is why the stream title is Meloidae Memorial. And they're called blister beetles because they have this really cool ability to bleed their hemolymph out, and there is a chemical in their hemolymph that is known to cause blisters in humans. What that looks like when they're actually doing it to defend themselves from a predator, they will curl up like this and they basically crack their joints. They've got really thin membranes between like the tibia and the femur on their front legs or on all of their legs. And then this is their hemolymph that's coming out that has this irritating chemical in it. Uh, Heads up, there are ads coming in a minute and a half. Alice, you missed a book, but that's okay. The VOD will go up in a bit. Um, this chemical causes blisters on the skin, which is why they're called blister beetles. Um, it's sort of like a very irritated sunburn when it's happened. Um, for obviously scientific purposes, I have rubbed a blister beetle on myself to see how bad it was. It's not fun. It stings a little bit, but then it reacts a lot later. Um, this chemical causes blisters in humans, but it is also just sort of a natural irritant. Um, so much so that people used to use it for an aphrodisiac, like a sex thing. Spanish fly, if anyone has ever heard of that, that was cantharidin that would cause uh the pee to swell up and sort of be like a an initiator for sex thing. And they would also use it to remove warts. Yes, Mini Pro, that's correct. Um, they don't do that anymore, thankfully. Uh, but yeah, so a that was a use for it. Obviously, not what the Beatles were intending when they evolved this. Um, but it is something that they produce as a defense mechanism. Now, for us consuming it, as far as I know, not like a deadly issue. But Meloids and blister beetles in general do get a lot of hate from the horse people. Horse girl TM non-gendered reference there. Um, because if ends PP up is very funny, Dan. That's a Pokemon card. um, if blister beetles are in the hay that the horses are eating, in even pretty low numbers, the blister beetles can, in some extreme cases, kill the horses. So definitely not something that you want around, and you don't specifically want feeding to animals in particular. But that same deterrent uh is attractive for other beetles. So there's a different family. There's a different family called fire-colored beetle in the genus Pedalus that will crawl around on blister beetles, and they will uptake the cantharidin from their hemolymph to use it for their own. Come on now, here it is. Here's a good picture. Why is that? Hold on. This is like the smallest photo that existed. Um, but these are all males of this one genus of fire colored beetle that will come over and feed on these excretions from the blister beetle. And the amount of cantharidin that they have, that the male fire colored beetle has, makes them more attractive to females. Because after they mate, the female will then get transferred the cantharidin and she imbues the eggs with. So these beetles go out, get a bunch of this blister juice, use that to attract females, transfer it to the females, and then the females make their eggs blistery and toxic to anything that wants to feed on them. So it's a pretty sought after chemical. You can see them again here feeding on all the different bits and pieces. Um, Trying to get that cantharidin out of this blister beetle. So that's what we're working with today. Uh Talking about the blister beetles here. I have some of this one somewhere. Uh these are pictures that I took these first two um on a light sheet in southern Arizona. And this is maybe one of my best pictures that I've ever gotten of bugs in the field specifically. But they're really cool and a really varied group. Their life history is also really interesting because they will could have prepared more. What? Every picture that I want to show today is just like the worst dog shit quality. Um, their larvae are parasitic. So, blister beetles, you will oftentimes find them on flowers, and that's because they lay their eggs in the crown of the flower. And when the larvae hatch, they are what is called a triungulin, which is just like a really hypermobile predatory stage. And they wait on the flower until something else comes along. So here you can see a couple of these triungulins here, these little beetle larvae on the back of this bee. And what they're going to do is they're going to hang on to the bee, and they're then going to go back to the bee's nest, tunnel, burrow, um, line of little leaf tubes that they make for their babies. And the larvae then are going to prey on the bee larva. So they're parasitic. These larvae will kill the bees that they're trying to develop on. Um, and you can see like imagine something this big relative to your body size and like trying to fly around with that on. There's a couple these bug guide pictures are really good. These are on a fly. Um, and so this probably won't work too well for them in terms of getting to a food source. But In the desert, there are lots of bees, and that means that there are a lot of beetles as well, these specifically these meloids. And so sometimes the aggregations that you get of these things, again, this is a pretty bad picture of them, but this is a whole congregation, like this is a whole ball of just meloid larvae at the top of a little stick, like waiting to grab onto one of these beetles or one of these bees flying by in passing. You can also see how heavy the parasite loads get sometimes on the back of these bees. So you can see uh, just how many of them can get taken back to a given nest, and then they will choose a larva, feed on that as it's developing, and kind of go from there. They don't dig their own burrows. They only go in the burrows that the bees have already dug. They don't really find their own food. They just wait for the larva to develop enough to be able to feed on that. So it's a really cool group, and diversity with meloids goes up with diversity of bees. In the Southwest, like in Arizona, where there's over 1,500 species of bee in general, uh, the Meloid diversity is like off the charts because certain species will try to target certain bees. There's just more ground nesting bees in general to feed on. So it's a pretty cool system, and they are a pretty cool group of beetles. Um, so now to get to the sappy sad part. Um, maybe some of you missed it a little bit earlier. One of the world authorities on this group, um, I learned unfortunately passed away over the weekend. His name was Jeff Huther, and he was a super, super, super nice guy. Um, I remember the exact day that I met Jeff, and it was uh April 20th of 2017. I remember it partially because I thought it was funny that it was 420. But also because he was the first entomologist that came and like visited our lab when I was doing my master's in Wichita. His son is a like world class disc golf player, which whole separate thing. His son is very nice too. Um and he was in town for a tournament. He was traveling around with his son to this disc golf tournament and stopped by our lab and was like, "Hey, like let's go out in the field." You guys know I do not need much convincing at all to go out in the field. And so after work that day, me and my master's advisor and Jeff went out to our local field station to go collecting. Jeff, another thing you guys need to know about Jeff, dude loved ice cream. There's so many times over the years where like it doesn't feel appropriate to have ice cream, but boy howdy did Jeff have ice cream all the time. So we were on our way out to the field station, and he wanted Dairy Queen so damn bad. So we went like probably 15-20 minutes out of our way to divert to a Dairy Queen on the way to the field site. Where we went out and we set up this blacklight. Um, this was my like stealthy taking picture of entomologists doing entomologist things in the field. But this is my light setup. I don't know if you guys have ever seen this one specifically, but this one was mine. We had another one down by the river, and it was just a really nice night. Um, like I said, he was the first like outside entomologist that had come to visit in Kansas. Unlike where I'm at now, where we get visitors like a lot. Wichita, Kansas, not exactly an entomology hub of places. So it was pretty special to have someone come through and just be super nice and like willing to talk about projects and give me field advice on things. Um, I like Meloids. I like a little bit of everything, obviously. But um he told me about some cool species in Kansas, which I did actually end up collecting a little bit later on, using the advice that he was able to give me. And after that, we stayed in contact. He sent me ground beetles a lot. I have a lot of his ground beetle material. Um, he did his PhD at Penn State. I'm from Pennsylvania, so we have that little connection up north. Uh, and then this is one of the other only pictures that I have with Jeff. Um, this was very fittingly for this stream, at a memorial for a different entomologist. This was in southern Arizona in 2022, I believe, um, where Jim Wappies, who is a world authority on longhorn beetles, unfortunately had passed away, and there was a big longhorn beetle and friend of Jim's gathering in the southern part of the state. So at a friend's house, we grilled out. We got to hang around. Kind of everybody drinking beer, talking Beatles. It was everything you could imagine and want as an entomologist, of like getting your friends together, bonding over the thing that like you all really like together. And sort of making these new connections. I had known Jeff at this point for probably 5 years. Um, but he didn't always get down to Arizona. He lived in New York, I believe. So him traveling around, we did get to see him every now and again, but he was always at the ESA, like the national meetings. Um, that was most of when I got to see him, but he would also, during my time in Arizona, would come down, visit with us for a little bit, but then get out in the field. Um, Jeff uh, was a maniac, and to put it lightly, in terms of like getting out in the field. Ground beetles are pretty easy because they just come to lights. Meloids are an active day collecting sort of thing, and to have to be out in the middle of Arizona in the middle of the day, um, you got to be built different, and it was always fun. We had some really good times out in the field. Uh, Maybe that's why he liked ice cream so much, because it was always stupid hot when we would go out collecting. Um, but yeah, I mean, he's in this picture, which was 5 years ago, or probably like 4 years ago now. Um, he's not a spring chicken. He's definitely on the older side of things. But even then, he's scurrying up and down these mountains. He's just like getting out of the car, almost like we'll see a flower field driving by. We'll pull over, get ready to, hop out. Before the car is in park, Jeff is out of the car with his net, starting to sweep the flowers. And he did that so you wouldn't collect his beetles. um, when we were out on these expeditions, I wasn't there really collecting Meloids. I was just interested, hanging out, getting out in the field, seeing some different spots. And I told Jeff, I was like, hey, If we get anything like rare or really good or anything like that, I would, that's yours. I don't want them. Like, that is your group. You can have them. But if we do get a bunch of the same thing and it's something like interesting, can I get a synoptic set back? So, like, can I get representatives to, have for my own reference? It's like, oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Didn't matter. He, he was always still like bat out of hell, first out of the car. Um, with his net. And even though I would bring him the good stuff, and even though we were out in the field and we found stuff that he was like, this was exactly what we're looking for. This is the rare one. Oh my God, like blah, blah, blah. I just gave it to him. But every time before the car, like before the car was in park, he was just out starting to sweep. Um, and yeah, again, now that I think about it, it might just be because we were out it being hot all the time. But when we were on the way back to the hotel or our campground or whatever it would have been, um, we stopped. We got ice cream. Whenever we were at the national meetings, which always happens in like November, which were in Vancouver and DC and Phoenix these past couple years. Um, Phoenix, obviously the outlier there, but DC and Vancouver in November, pretty cold. Not exactly not exactly what I would deem ice cream weather, but the first time that I ran into Jeff at the DC meeting, um, he was sitting outside of the Coleoptera Society uh, symposium, which was all organized, all beetle things, and he's just sitting there eating an ice cream cone, and he was super nice. We had a lot of really good times together, and like I said, he did give me a ton of specimens. Um, and it's a real shame that he's gone. Crying on the street. Crying on the street. Um, yeah. So this sucks. Sucks real bad. Oobly, that's a great idea. And this is pretty recent news. Um, I think he passed on Friday. I found out at work today. So there hasn't been any sort of information if there's going to be a memorial gathering or anything like that, but um this is probably not the last you're going to be hearing about this. Um because we are getting Jeff's collection. That's sort of like the thing when entomologists die. What are you going to do with their bugs, right? And when you're a casual, you've got casual hobbyists, whatever, you have sort of a mix of things. Um sorry guys. Uh you have a little bit of everything, but Jeff has so many goddamn blister beetles. So fucking many blister beetles. Um Owl. Hello, thank you for the follow. Um my museum that I work at now is the final repository for his collection. Um so obviously family needs time and everything like that, but I think I'm going to be going up and packing his collection and driving it back down to Florida. Uh, which will be fun. I mean, given the circumstances, there are a lot of other reasons why I would rather do that. Um, but we will always have this resource and have all of this material for the broader scientific community, and even sort of like multi-layered of it. My current institution is the main recipient of everything that he has, but all of his longhorn beetles, which was like his other pet group that he liked a lot, um, all of those go back to Arizona State. So where I was before I got this position. Um, but the way that at least how our understanding of it was, um, we'll have to figure it out with the will and the family and the estate and all that sort of stuff. But at least in our records, it seemed like we would get everything right away, and then we would sort of be responsible for making sure the other stuff gets to Arizona. Um, so everything that Jeff has entomology wise, uh, his collection, his literature, supplies, I'm assuming, um, all of that stuff is going to come down here. And I don't think there's really a better way to wrap it up, you know. His collection's like a really phenomenal resource. It's going to live on. Jeff's work's going to live on, but this is a tough one. It really is. Um there have been several pretty prominent entomologists over the past few years that have passed away, which it's an old white guy's game, you know. A lot of the mentors that I've had and the people that I look up to and like the research that I follow is older people. And uh it's never easy, you know, losing someone influential in the community. Uh but Jeff was a good guy. He really was. So this one sucks a little bit more than others. So for the rest of the stream, we're not gonna be sad. We're not gonna be sad. We're gonna look at cool stuff. And that's what Jeff would have wanted, to look at cool beetles. So um I don't have very many. uh I don't have very many blister beetles on hand because a lot of them are with Jeff. So part of sorting out his collection at some point is going to be finding the stuff that I sent him so I can get that back. So we've got a cool box of them here. And then I did grab two uh pretty phenomenal things that we can find in the US, but I don't have representation of, that I know you guys would like to see cuz like of course, you want to see the cool goods. I'll just flash those real quick. And we'll look at them a little bit down the line. Um but yeah, rest of stream, I think we're just going to look at some cool beetle specimens. Let's start with the OG. This is the bronze blister beetle, Meloidae, which I think is a fantastic scientific name. This is the first blister beetle that I ever collected. Vic, yes, on purpose. It's one of those things where I was like, I had to see kind of what it was like. It burns a little bit when you start, and then it blisters up and it's kind of irritating, but it's not like painful. So I am scrolling back on my Instagram right now because I know I posted a picture of this thing. This specimen was collected January 9th of 2015. This is one of my oldest specimens that I have in my collection that survived. Um, we're not going to talk about the Great Fire Ant disaster of 2015 right now because I'm already sad. We can talk about that some other time. Um, but this is one of my first bug specimens that I ever pinned for my personal collection. Um, and so, uh, this is from 588 weeks ago. This was my insect classifications collection that I turned in for class on like my first big entomology collection. Uh, you can ooh and ah at this stuff, like that's fine. But oh, that sucks. Right here, you can see the exact specimen that we're looking at right now. So we got history with this one. We've got history with this individual. Um, this was the first blister beetle that I ever caught. It was on the University of Florida campus where I did my undergrad. And I was walking from my dorm to a little market. And to get to that little market, I had to go through a tennis court. And tennis courts at a college campus have these big bright lights on them so people can play tennis into all hours of the night. And it was just there. It was just hanging out there on the tennis court because the lights attracted it. Um, and so yeah, this is one of my oldest specimens that I think that I still have. I think is pretty dang nifty. When they're dead and you pin them, can they still release the toxin thing? Yeah, Vic, they can. Um, they have like a special. I don't know if you saw the picture earlier where they like crack their joints to do it. It's something that they have to like really kind of try hard to do. They have a special mechanism that I don't really know how it works. Allows them to crack like that. And so handling them normally after they've died, you don't usually get the chemical on you. But one of the one of the cool things that makes a meloid, and again, you OG pre-chat heads, we've talked about this before. They have this like really long sort of blade like process under their tarsal claws. So this is at the end of the foot. The claw is the thicker sort of inner part, and then they have this process under it here. Truthfully, I don't know what it's for. I don't really have an explanation as to why they would have that, but this is something that's consistent across all blister beetles. Um, and one of the things that you can use to identify them, they're also a tenebrianoid. So I know this is everybody's favorite activity of counting tarsal segments, but on the front and middle leg, they have they have 5 segments in like the foot portion. On the hind leg here, this is a characteristic of all tenebrianoids. They only have four. So one, two, three, and four. The claws do not count separately as their own segment. Um, so they have five on the front and middle legs. They have four on the back legs. And you, in theory, could confuse them with a tenebrionid, so like a darkling beetle. But darkling beetles will never have this like blade extra process under their claws like this. Y'all are able to see that. So this is another thing that is very Meloid characteristic. Is that they got big fat head, real skinny neck, and then kind of like normal size pronotum. You can see this like this huge vertex here, so the whole top of the head, but then behind that it narrows down into this very skinny neck. And then the pronotum, or the neck shield, the first part of the prothorax, is normal in size. And as we look at more of these, you'll sort of see this recurring pattern with blister beetles, where they got big head, little pronotum, big wings, big elytra. So they sort of always like start big, get small, get big again. And it can vary a lot with like what that looks like, but in general you probably will notice this as it goes. Big head and little arms, shout out Meet the Robinsons. Excellent movie, great Polgernal. Do insects have muscles per se? Yeah, bravo, they do. Um, they're sort of attached the opposite way of ours. For ours, we have the skeleton in the middle, and so they're attached to the bones with ligaments. For insects, they have that attachment coming to the outside. The attachment point for the muscle is on the exoskeleton, and it's not even per se they have muscles. It's going to be quite different, the arrangement, than ours. But if you start getting into the different like muscle groups and things like that, there is familiar terminology, like the ones that are uh in the prothorax under the front pair of legs. I think they do also call those like the pectoral group. I could be wrong. Muscle physiology, definitely not what I do. Definitely not. Definitely not the area that I spend a lot of time looking at. But yes, they do have muscle. Hourglass figure. Yes. We're gonna keep them real. This is a second one from that same collecting event. So that same night. But this one has uh not all of that's definitely not theirs. Never mind. This doesn't have anything except dirt. So I thought this was seedy, but it turns out this is old moth scales. So we're able to clean that right off like that. Some of it's probably a little bit more stuck, but I can deal with that a little later. Um, Other cool thing about this that I didn't specifically highlight, but I think you guys probably noticed uh, about that last one is that they have these very distinct bicolored legs. So the first three segments of their leg are kind of bright red, and then right here at the tip of the femur, right here, it starts to get dark, and then the tibia and the tarsi are all black. But pretty cool. In addition to the metallic coloration, you sort of get the purple and bronze, as this is the bronze blister beetle. You get a little bit of that color variation sort of up on the elytra, but you also have this really cool bicolored leg underneath. No case. It's not. That's a leg. Do I have any with? I think we're in luck. I don't think I have any dissected ones. So no did today. Let's see. This is another Florida one. Recent blister beetles. Very nice rock. Oh, super cool. Ooh. Got a Fortis or Sericans. Yeah. So this is the genus that we were going to look at next. I have an Epicauda here too. And Epicauda is a giant bitch of a genus. It is like by far the most diverse genus that we have in the US for blister beetles. 173 species in North and Central America, about 400 species worldwide. Is it a fake genus or is it real? It's pretty real case, I think. This isn't a group that I work on a ton, but it does seem very characteristic. Um, it does seem very consistent across the genus. This Roxers, unfortunately, your picture's probably gonna have to stay at genus. Um, they just do not do well trying to identify them from photos. There's a comment here on the bug guide pages from John Pinto, who is like the Epicauda guy, on what angles slash details are necessary to get Epicauda identified from photographs. There is no general recipe. For species ID of some, we need to see palps. For others, it's tibial spurs. For others, it might be the hindcoxy. For the Caviceps group, the head capsule is also important. These features are not easily documented in field photos. In general, for the subgenus Macrobasis, which includes many southwestern species, we should have males. Males for all groups are generally best unless the species has a unique color pattern or unique shape. Fortunately, genitalia are of little to no use in Epicauda. Many common Epicauda are simply difficult to identify from photos. Field photos are poor substitutes for having specimens in hand. It seems that it would eventually be worthwhile to photograph authoritatively identified material in museums. Virtually all of the US Epicauda could be done rather easily. Field photos seem to be an inefficient way to figure out our fauna documenting for a non specialist. So good luck. The one the blister beetle that came in to the bug light the other week, I think it was Epicata. We can't do anything with it. It was nighttime, so we didn't even be able to see any patterns or anything. Uh, and there's just no way we're getting to see all of the characteristics that we need to see. There are some Epicata that are pretty distinctive, but in general, uh, it's just a really, really tough genus. When you have them in hand and you can key them out, like like what we have here, it's not that bad. And the reason that I guess that none of these are dissected is because John Pinto says that genitalia are of little to no use in the genus. So it's not a group where we need to do dissections. But it is a big group uh that's pretty tricky. This is another Florida one. This was only collected a few months later. Uh or no, about a year late, over a year later. This is April 11th of 2016. And this one came from the extra exotic location of the wall of a Dollar General. Ooh. Ah. So this one, unlike the last one, this is certainly more representative of the genus Epicata. They mostly have this like really, really fine, really dense covering of hair. And so you guys can see it right now, whatever is in focus here on the screen, but it's all down the elytra. It's all here behind the head, on the neck, covering the legs. So this is sort of the default look for this genus. Um, and I have quite a few things in this genus that we can look. But something for this one, I don't know what species it is. This has been sitting here for 10 years at this point, and I haven't identified it. Oops. But this one has bicolored palps. So those little extra hands, the little things that help them grab and hold on to and process food, uh, are sort of reddish underneath here. And then on the top view, they're black. This might be something that comes down to that. These might be useful for identification. And then this one also has some pretty big peepers. It's hard to see from that other view. But basically the entire top to bottom length of their head just has eye. It is satisfying. The hair on them is really cool. And we'll get to see some different colors and patterns and things of that. But really big eyes, interesting palps on this one. Very nice, sleek coating. Pretty send off. Do I have any other? This is a good one. This is from July 2017. And this one is from Pennsylvania. And it is also Epicata, but we get to see a little bit of our first look at a patterned species. So this is Epicata vittata. This guy right here. Is this the one that was in a complex with like 20 other species? Yeah, probably. The Epicata vittata group. Yeah, yeah, it was this one. But thankfully, based on where I caught this, which was in central Pennsylvania at a preserve at a black light, um, we were able to identify this one. This is the only one that looks like this in that area. If I would have found this in like the southwest or like the south central part of the eastern part, I'd be kind of fucked. Roach, hello. Meloidae is the family of blister beetles. So we're going to be looking at blister beetles today. The family didn't die, but um, a good friend of mine and like world authority on this group unfortunately did pass away this weekend. So we're just gonna look at some cool stuff. Colors of the chitin or the hair or both. It's just the chitin, I believe, on these. So we can zoom in to check. And yeah, so the color is below the hairs on this group. If I'm good. Yeah, so you can see here on the head um that it is actually both eagle. So on the lighter parts of the head, yes, exactly. Yes, yes, yes. So on the lighter parts of the head, you can see here that the hairs are sort of that matching orange color. But you can see here, sort of around the edge, the black hairs are coming off of this black patch and sort of bleeding over here into uh, the lighter hairs off to the side. So the answer is both. But the majority of the pattern that you were seeing is from the colored exoskeleton rather than simply the hairs. But they all have this whole genus has this like very svelte look to it. Um, Kind of cool to watch on the stream. How the light is just hitting the different layers of the hairs as I sort of like bring things into and out of focus. You can see where the highlights touch in different parts. I think that's pretty cool. Long toes, yeah. And again, one of the things that all of them in this group have, but another good reminder and good example of this here. They have these blades under the tarsi on all the feet. So that sort of extra claw under there is a characteristic that all blister beetles will have. Yeah, I think the CD on this like really do highlight that pretty well. Um, I mean it's every time that we have something under the scope, it it moves through the focal plane. But when you're doing it like this, you really see start the light and sort of the gradient to go across. I did roach. They're in the rotation. Where did I put them? I thought they were sitting here on my desk. Hold. Those? Oh yeah, we got some heaters. I'm sort of going chronologically with these, or at least trying to. So those were when I lived in Florida the first time, and also just a random summer trip up to Pennsylvania. But the next few are going to be from Kansas. When I was doing my master's. Blisters and bombardiers anywhere close? No, not close at all. So blister beetles, they they ooze more than anything. Um, if you missed the picture that we were looking at earlier, um, this is what the blister compound in them looks like when it comes out. They snap. They like crack a little specific membrane in their legs that allows them to ooze out hemolymph like this. Whereas bombardier beetles, which are ground beetles, so like totally different suborders of or subfamilies. No, yes, suborders is correct. So very distinctly differently or very losing it. They are very distinct groups from one another. Uh, the blister beetles will ooze like this. Bombardier beetles, it's an explosive reaction, which is why you can like see and hear the little kind of puff of smoke. Because it's two chemicals coming together and causing like an explosion. So very different mechanism and very different families, kind of all. Ads in about 2 minutes. Just a heads up. Um, yeah, so there's some cool stuff. We've got other Vitata now, I think, but I think Kansas is actually where you start to get some of the overlap. Um, where this might not be Vitata anymore. Vitata, which I did not explain, Epicata Vitata, the wonderful phrase. It means no worries for the rest of your days. Um, a Vita or a Vita or Vitae, whatever you want to do, it's a stripe. It's essentially a long stripe. So Vitata is a very common thing that you'll see in organisms that have like long stripes going down their back. Now that I'm looking at it, these might be different. These might not be Vitata, and I'm glad I don't actually have labels on them because of that. But the pronotum on this one, sort of the neck, this neck, uh, central neck piece here, it's a little bit dusty. Um, but it's definitely narrower than the other one we were just looking at, and I think is more distinctly patterned. Um, I'll probably go through all of this stuff uh this week, maybe over the weekend. Um, I don't know why these particular ones didn't make it to Jeff. Uh, but I've been hanging on to them for so long. Why haven't I identified them? Shitty. So this is a good excuse. I will maybe see if I can get names on all of these things this week, but I don't know. Vitata, maybe some other thing, but got the stripes again. So very similar. These ones came from the biological station in Kansas, and I'm assuming they were just at the lights. But then this one is actually one that you can identify. Another epicata. This is Epicata albida. Looks like it's made of couch. I would sit in a blister beetle couch. I think that would. Albida means white. So this one, I think with the exposure, it's maybe a little bit hard to tell. I can't tell how well it's showing up uh on the stream here. But this is a much paler gray than like this other one. Sort of like a brownish gray. This one's definitely more white. But this one is pretty readily identifiable. If you look at the antenna, it is light at the base and gets dark at antennal segment 6. So it's essentially light at the base and then much darker at the end. This is a subgenus called Macrobasis. Macro meaning large, basis meaning base. Uh You can probably guess that that is referring to this first antennal segment here. Hey, Tortilla. So that first antennal segment is quite large and very different than the rest of the segment. Find another. There's one that has like crazy and ones are pretty wild. Maculifera. This is another one, that same subgenus, but it has crazy segment. In addition to having very fashionable polka dot. 'Here it is, Orsa. I identified one of these recently, and this this first antennal segment is wild. Followed by a relatively large second antennal segment here too. Roach, thank you. 12 months. Roach is 1 year old, everybody. Antler Tenny. Yeah, basically. Look at your fancy new badge. You got your ground beetle badge. Very exciting. Very exciting. But this is someone did say antler and Tenny. Sort of, because this is only a male character. So the males have that, but this is a female of the same species, and you can see that she does not have that crazy modification. Are there any badges after this one? Interesting. Yes. Yes, there are. I think there's a 18-month and maybe and a 2 year as well. Um, I do in fact have at least two more ready that I don't think I showed off. But yeah, very cool antennal base. Um, just showing off again macro basis the sort of large basal antennal segment on in this subgenus. This one was also at one of our field stations. And I remember I found it crossing the road. I was just walking when I was able to run over and scoop it up. If you have front on, look at that. Ain't that cool? Nice bright red palps too on this one. Shit, ping job is crazy. Uh, if you'll look at this, that's damn near perfectly perpendicular to the pin. That's a crazy thing to say to me, Rich. And you line it up with the elytra, not with the head, because the head turns. So, if you wouldn't mind looking down the elytral suture here, so you're looking down the thing that, divides the bug in half, that pin is parallel to the damn elytra. I've messed up some pins. Don't get me wrong. I did it the other day on stream and it was pretty bad. It was like a real bad job. This one though, I'm not gonna I will not stand for it. Cuz this one's pretty good. I think this one's pretty solid. All things all things considered. And then two more from Kansas. Both of these came to lights, but they came to different lights. I only have an ID on one of them, so they might be different. They might not. But this is a new genus. This is Pyrota. So this first one here is Pyrota cocina. Yeah, enjoy that. Um, don't have to show you guys. Neck. Yeah, yeah, the pronotum does have those two distinct spots. I'm losing my mind because I don't think this is the thing that I hold on. I might be going crazy. I certainly different. Yeah, I can totally see that, Rockstars. There's definitely the um I'm losing it. Hippoceras, like the zebra longhorns and things like that. That look a lot like this. Um Here is the other one that I have. Also Pyrota. The black one with the red stripes that we were looking at the beginning of the stream is also in this genus. And I do think that this is like my own personal hell of a Mandela effect that's happening right now, because I simply do not agree with this. um there is a species of blister beetle that is called the Charlie Brown blister beetle. And Google and everything is telling me that it's this guy. This doesn't really scream Charlie Brown to me. It's lighter in color here. And like I sorta kind of maybe get it. But you kind of see it, Ophelia, right? Now, reminder, everybody, this is Charlie Brown. This is the Charlie Brown blister beetle. Now, I see what you're saying. I do kind of get it. However, however, is this not way fucking better? That's the same damn shirt. I yeah, yeah, I thought so too. I googled, I took off you guys were on the other screen and I was like, "Oh yeah, the Charlie Brown blister beetle is also in Pyrota." It's not apparently in Pyrota. This is Pleuropasta, which is cool. That's a fun name. Um this is the one that I thought was called the Charlie Brown blister beetle. But everything on Google was telling me that it was in fact the other one. And I think that's crazy because this is so much more Charlie Brown. First beetle, the intent girl like it. I Yeah, but they don't. It doesn't always. That's just how that one was sitting. Look at this guy. That's just like a straight antenna. Anyway, um, this is my own personal Mandela effect. Welcome. You are now here for it. Time for a new paper. Unfortunately, you don't write papers to correct common names. Uh, so there's nothing I can really do about that. Guys, I published my first paper of 2026. It's reclassifying a common name. Um, but yeah, okay. I the other one, it's so much better. It's so much more Charlie Brown. Anyway, not my business. But yes, this is another species of Pyrota here. The curled RC on this one, not a natural thing. I think this just happened uh when I was pinning it, the tarsi wanted to fold up, and I had pins holding the legs in. So as it was like up off the foam, it kind of just curled back on itself, which is why so many of these, why these guys in particular have like the curled feet. Oh yeah, the true Charlie Brown beat. I could see that. Um, Roach got auto modded. That's funny. It's funny. Uh, finger, finger in. Apparently, Roach is what got that auto modded. But another cool blister beetle thing that I haven't really showed yet or highlighted is that they have these dehiscent wings. So do you see this gap that's happening here in the back of these wing covers? There's like an opening almost, and the individual elytra are like individually rounded. That's another thing that is not uh it's not completely consistent across the entire group, especially with some of the stuff that we're going to look at in a little bit. But in general, they do tend to have that little slight separation of the elytra, and then the individually like rounded. That one was held granola. I think it's the combination of those two words that causes the auto. These labels are shit. These are like my old entomology labels, and they're so much bigger than the ones that I like to use now. Um, okay, we shall do another random state one. Do two. And these are again highlighting some of the diversity of blister beetles. Um, this next one, itty bitty. So this one's on a point, if you couldn't tell. This is not my finest point job. Roach, don't come for me. I don't want to hear it. Uh this is not does not look the best, but this one is much much smaller than the other ones to sort of give you the scale of these two things next to one another. But this is now a different subfamily. So subfamily is a level where you start to see like kind of some pretty different looking critters. And these ones in particular, the Nemognathines, have these insane palps. So, man, it's blown out. Sucks. All right, we'll focus through. So, look at the head first of all. The head is very very different than what we have seen so far. It's more elongate. It has two sort of like long crescent shaped mandibles at the front. This thing is feeding in flowers almost exclusively. This thing loves asters, so anything that sort of looks like a sunflower, and it also really, really likes thistle, those little kind of purple puffy flowers. They have this really long head to kind of poke down in there to try to get at the nectar and to try to get at the pollen. But not only does it have that long face, but if we look at the whole thing just a little bit more, follow this to where it attaches. So, do you see where the pin is pointing right now? This structure right here? That attaches up here under the mouth. So, if you follow it down, it comes down and it's curled up all the way back here under this leg. It has a really, really long tongue. They're the palps, so it helps them to go down and start kind of grabbing things with the flower. But they use that and then use this super long sort of tongue-like structure to bring it back up to get into their mouth, which is up here uh with at the bottom of this like long face. So completely different vibes than the group we were just looking at, like Epicata and Lyda and things like that. Those will be on flowers, but they're mostly going to be feeding on leaves or like the broad parts of the plant. Uh they're there for the foliage, not necessarily for the flower. This guy only there for the flower. So again, kind of showing how small this one is in comparison to the others. And I picked this one up. I thought so. Um, I picked this one up as I was moving to Arizona. I stopped at a rest stop on I-40 West. And I got out and I collected a couple of things. And this little blister beetle was one of them. This was the first specimen that I ever collected in New Mexico. It was my first time ever being in New Mexico, was on my drive from Kansas to Arizona. So this is the first, not the last. I have collected there quite a few times since then. But yeah, this is like a cool little Neomagnethine from New Mexico. And now another fun one. This is Eupompha elegans. And elegans, if you can imagine, means this is probably going to be quite a pretty beetle. And I do agree. Common name is the elegant. And this is a fairly common Western species. Oh, tortilla in my house. Thank you, though. You're still here to send links. That'll be great. Um, this is a very common thing on flowers in the Southwest. And I think it has a mimicry complex. So, sort of how like monarchs are toxic, but viceroys look like monarchs, but they're not toxic. I think that this species of checkered beetle So this is not the blister beetle that we're looking at. This is a different family. Imagine imagine side by side. You can see it, right? I think there's a pretty high probability that this is an attempted mimic of this. Because it's a blister beetle. You don't want to eat it because you're going to get this mouthful of blister juice. But this guy is non toxic, but lives sort of in the same plants and things like that as the other ones do. So I think there's probably some sort of mimicry thing happening here. I don't know for sure. I'm gonna guess though. Disappeared for a second. My elderly linker fell down, but won't do it again. I would hope not, Tortilla. And Roxers, enjoy your walk. Mimicry is always sick. So yeah, I think this is a cool complex, and there's sort of like two different. uh Oh yeah, Linda knows all about checkered beetles. Um, there's two different subspecies of this. There's this one that sort of has the shoulders only pattern, and then you have the one that has the kind of more pattern like the one that we're looking at here. This one, this individual in particular was interesting because this came out of a publication that I did. We were looking at how the different management practices around a solar farm in California, how that affected the insect community. So how the plot for the solar farm was prepared, whether it was mowed or disked or hayed or whatever. We had these different categorizations where we put out traps for the beetles. Well, I did not. Somebody put out the traps for the beetles. Where I came in, I identified all the beetles and mounted everything up, and then sent them the information so they could write the paper and do all the stats and whatnot on it. But this was one of the vouchers from that. We had a couple of them, and I, at that point, had not collected this species yet. I have since, but yeah, this was a cool one to get to keep just because it's a sort of classic southwestern species. This individual in particular, I think, is pretty interesting because there is some damage right here. So it doesn't go all the way through, but that is not a standard mark on the elytra. That shouldn't happen. So this is something that probably happened either like in the pupal stage or just as it was emerging from the pupal stage and it was nice and soft. Um, Scraped up against something, a rock hit it. Who knows? Who knows what could have happened? But this is not a standard marking for this beetle, and just the way that it looks under the microscope, the dark edge is like a scar essentially. It hardened around the damage and sort of reinforced it with that extra material. So I think that's pretty neat. As you can see, it does not have it on the other side. Body mods are cool. I agree. Cute little Eupompha elegans. It's another small-ish blister beetle. Definitely not as small as the the Magnetha that we looked at. So having these two together, this, you can see the size difference. But then so far, I think our biggest blister beetle Comes in like that. So quite a size discrepancy in this family overall. They can look like a lot of different things, and their body shapes can be quite varied. But all right, we are moving on now to sort of the cream of the crop. Like I said at the beginning, because these guys are parasitic on bees, their larvae are laid on flowers, which bees will then come and visit. The larvae then hitchhike onto those bees to go back to the bee nest and eat the baby bee larvae. As I said, bees are incredibly diverse in the Southwest. Arizona alone has over 1,500 species of bee. Um, Bees obviously meaning more than just honeybees, so like all your sweat bees, your digger bees, pebble bees, resin bees, leafcutter bees, bumblebees, all that good stuff. There's a ton of that in the desert Southwest. There are so many bees there that you get this really high diversity of blister beetles as well. Um, and there are some real highlights that we're going to get to take a peek at now. Um, we'll start with some of the tamer ones that I think are, just okay. Then we'll move into some real sort of uh real damn. Ta-da! This is our first Arizona one. I don't know who this one is. I don't have a name on it yet, but I imagine orange neck like this is probably pretty easy to find. This is another epicata, so this is going back to that genus that had the one with the really big red antennal base. Same genus. A lot of these, I shouldn't say that, they're not. Um, Not all of these are going to be the same thing, but there are going to be a lot of similar ones. And diversity. Ooh, Tortilla got a link. Just a chance. Thank you anyway. Um, a lot of these are going to be. I've saved them for last because I do think they are sort of highlights of like, uh, just cool designs, if you want to call them that. Cool species diversity and just like differences in how they look. I do like the dual color on this one. Of course, the gray and the orange looks pretty sick. We get it in here in focus. It's maybe not fully under yet, but the orange does not continue all the way around. So the bottom of the pronotum, the bottom of that neck segment, that sort of collar, it does not have the color going all the way around. The underside is this gray and white. You can see where the color stops, sort of up there on that top edge. Pretty neat little guy. Again, I don't have a name on it yet, but that's going to be a project that I want to do soon now, as to start working through some of these. Um, Here is another Neomagnathine. Pickle! Just in not just in time. We're gonna swap things so you can get a good beetle toe for your daily dose. We're looking at blister beetles today, Pickle. And blister beetles are unique because they have this like extra blade, they call it, under their tarsal claws. So the claw is obviously the big chunk out front here, but then they have this extra very thin piece behind them. I don't know why they have that. Uh I can't think of like a ecological reason why they would have that, but the entire group does, including the ones that don't fly, including the ones that like don't have wings or anything, and that don't specifically feed on flowers. So um I'm sure maybe somebody has looked into it. I'm sure somebody's looked into why they have this. I just don't know off the top of my Wild Child. Thank you for the 4 months. Oh yeah, oh yeah, Tortilla. That's the good stuff. Tortilla has in fact found our guy. Um, we had to do a quick swap because Pickle came in, but this one, this guy right here. No, you're still okay. Um, this guy right here is apparently Epicauda wheeleri. That makes sense to me. Relatively small. Uh, on Baccharis. Yeah, yeah. This all tracks. This little guy furry. Yeah, I think so. I think you could definitely say that. Most of these blister beetles so far have had some pretty dense CD going on. He does have a bald spot, Snitzer. Nice and shiny right there on the top of the head. Look at that. Nothing going on up there. What's the softest bug you've touched? Probably one of those big silk moths. Oh yeah, all the little forehead kisses. Just get in there. Little. What if I get blisters on my lips? That wouldn't be fun. He deserves all the forehead kisses. Doesn't mean that we have to give them to him. He deserves them. This is another one of those much smaller Neomagnathines. So this is one of the flower ones that has the elongate face. This one does not have, well, I guess I won't say that. I should probably flip it over because I actually do see them from the side. Um, is it called pubescence? Yeah, it is. Yes, it is in fact pubescence. This will give you a better view, I think. This is probably about double the size of the other small one that we looked at. So it's still not big, but it does allow us to see some of the structures a little bit better. Um, including these like stupid long palps that are coming from, again, right up here all the way down. They're like curling all the way up under the first pair of legs. So very long tongue to be able to get straight down into flowers. If I turned into a bug, which bug would I want to be? Um, bug would I want to be? I I think a cricket or like a grasshopper could be pretty cool. Um, you can jump really high, cool. You can fly a lot of the time, so I still get to do that. Um, but it also hell yeah, cricket. Nailed it. Um, but I also fixed the Evan can't sing problem by being able to chirp. So I think that would be kind of neat. Um, other obvious answers, I think dragonfly is kind of cool. I think being able to fly and being so nimble like that would be really neat. Downside, can't walk anymore. So that's kind of a bummer. Uh Nicole, hello. Welcome in. Dragonfly would be cool. Uh the funny answer would be like water boatman. So my pee pee can be real loud. That would be a funny answer. Tiger beetle is also very cool. You can fly, you can run real fast. Big mandibles, chompers, you know. I think any bug would be kind of cool. I think any bug. It I would definitely want to be able to fly. Whatever my answer is, it would definitely have to be something that flies. So none of these flightless none of these flightless boys. All right. Who's next? Who's next? These ones are fun. Oh, this was do I want to know what a dong noise? Nicole, fake world's wildest fan. Um Maya's podcast that she had with Connor for a while was, her most extreme animals or something like that. Uh the water boatman is it's a little tiny true bug, swims in water, and they make audible noises by rubbing their penis across like a little scraper thing on the underside of their body. And for being like, a quarter inch long or something like that, you can hear the noise outside of the water, like on the riverbank. You rub the weenie on the abs. Yeah, exactly. Um, so that's the funny answer. That's the funny answer for what type of bug I would want to. In reality, probably not, but speaking of peen, this is the 2-for-1 special. Uh these ones interesting for several reasons. Um First, these were collected uh I'm pretty sure the day we found out about COVID. So I was on a spring break trip to a national wildlife refuge that we had permits for, and there, we were in camp, and a friend of ours who was joining us late drives up, and the back of his truck is just full of toilet paper. And we're like, hey, what the fuck is this? And he goes, I don't know, man. My wife said that there was something that toilet paper was getting sold out. So I stopped on the way, like in this little small town, and bought a bunch because she said, like, nobody could find it anywhere. We're like, oh, weird, like, strange. Um, yeah, we didn't have any cell phone service. So the next day, or maybe it was this day, we drove partially out so we could get cell service, and that's when we saw the email that was like, hey, we're going to be closed for the next week or so, like just till we figure out what's going on. And then obviously that turned into fucking COVID. So these were collected like right pre-COVID. This was the last thing that we did before we learned about COVID, which I think is kind of fun. Um, Obviously, the other thing that's neat about these, they're boning. They're doing it. My label here says that I sweep netted these, so they were on some sort of flower, and I scooped them off of that, and through the sweep netting process, through the being thrown in alcohol process, through the pinning process, um, he never dislodged. And so rather than trying to separate them and potentially rip something out of here or do whatever, I was like, I'm just gonna pin them like that. So I think this is pretty cool. You got them in copula, so I definitely have the male on top and the female on the bottom. But they also have these like red. The back of the head is red, while the rest of it is this like metallic bluey black. And I just think that's kind of neat. Would she still love me if I got captured by an entomologist mid bone and pinned? Fantastic question, Woobly. Gonna be my new opening on the dating apps. Uh, yeah, this is the extreme version of "I love you if I was a worm." Yeah. So fun, cool specimens. As we were doing that, other metallic ones. Okay, okay, okay. I think we'll finish with. Thank you for allowing that, Tortilla. It was definitely gonna get through. These are actually this next one that I'm going to show you is actually from the same trip. This is Lyta Magister, or the Master Blister Beetle. another kind of Arizona southwestern specialty. Like I said, all of these recent ones, or the ones that we're showing now, are all Arizona based. Um, because of the bee explosion down there. But this is it's a real stunner. It's a real stunner of a species. So this is Lyta Magister. This is the same genus as the first beetle that we looked at. So same, but very different. Obviously this one has the really rough textured elytra. That first one was very, very smooth. Um, the texturing on this is definitely my favorite part. This is a certain an identifiable like sign of spring in Arizona when you start seeing these pop up on all the Encelia and like the other wildflowers and stuff out there. These are everywhere at certain times of the year. Um, like just everywhere. And if you think that one's cool, we do have, I think at least, a slight upgrade. This is a pretty good one. It's hard to compete with it. So this is Light and Magister. This is Tegradera aloga. Ooh, lava bug. Yeah, I agree on that one. This one, if you look down from the top, this is called the Iron Cross blister beetle. So it has the black suture that goes all the way down the middle of the elytra, and then the kind of cross beam there, so it makes a cross. So this is the Iron Cross blister beetle. This is another thing that shows up certain times of year. It's like an April, sort of early spring thing that shows up again when the first bloom of wildflowers happens. Um, the texture on these is a little bit different than on the Lyta, but I do think it's kind of cool. I think this looks like um this might be a very niche thing, and I realize that not everybody's Instagram pages are probably looks like mine. Y'all ever seen slime mold? Seen the people that have like the pet slime molds that grow? I think the yellow on here looks like the slime mold patterns growing. Slime molds that are in love. Okay, you guys do have weird Instagram just like I do. I'm glad. Also has these like really deep uh frontal fissures, or what is what they're called in the key, but it's got these like really deep marks here on the front of the head. Um which I think are pretty cool. Y'all know Ethan, my friend that lives down in Orlando. Uh I don't know if I don't know if I've brought this up specifically before, but he was one of my undergrad students in Arizona. So while we overlapped there, we were out all the time. Um, there's what they call Ophelia now. Um, yeah, my fishing bud. Yes. Same guy. Um, he did a project on this species. When we were out the one time, we found it feeding on uh a new plant record. our botanist our botanist sent it to us and was like, "Hey, what is this beetle that's feeding on this plant?" And we're like, "Oh, it's this thing." And she asked, is that a known host? And it wasn't. So that was Ethan's, I think, um first author publication was this new host record of this thing. And again, the genus on this is Tegrodera. And every time that this species would start to pop up, people would send us pictures. We'd see them on Instagram or iNaturalist or whatever. We would always be like, "Oh, it's Teg time." Teg time was our little thing for when these started to show up, which is pretty funny. And Ethan also gave uh his first conference talk ever on this Tegrodera paper, um on a different 420. I know I said at the beginning of the stream talking about Jeff, um, and the first time that I met him was on a 420. Ethan's first talk was also on a 420. And so me, him, and his girlfriend drove down to Tucson to give this talk, and we collected on the way back home. Pretty fun. He did a TED talk, yeah. He did do a TED talk. Turns out, way easier than a TED talk. To have to give one of those. All right. I have got one more cool one from me. And then I have the two really cool ones that I brought from work so I could show you. Because I think it's cool to highlight the diversity. This is something we talked about during chats. Uh Maybe a week or two ago. Is how ants will lock their jaws after they die and can be used for stitches in certain places. This is not that. Um, but we do have ants that have refused to let go of this beetle again through the whole collecting, going into alcohol, and pinning process. These ants have not let go. So they're just kind of grabbed on there. I think this is the same species that we had the mating pair of. So cool to have, like, these are just sort of ridiculous situations that this species keeps finding itself in. But if we look underneath, we've actually got 3 ants attached here. So we have head only attached to the hind leg. We have got a complete ant attached here to the front femur. And then this other whole ant here attached to front tibia. Don't some ants have mandibles that stay closed by default? Yes, I believe so. But yeah, this is, I think I mentioned during chats when we were talking about the stitches thing, how they like lock their jaws shut. I think I mentioned that I had specimens where ants were just hanging on to it. And here we are. This is that. This is exactly what's happening. Starting an attack and the corpse of your enemy is stuck to your Yeah, if I was this beetle, I would come back and haunt these ants. But I think that's a very fun. Um, was this? Oh wow, I forgot where I got this guy. Um, this the ant guy that we were just looking at is one of the very first specimens that I ever collected in Arizona. So I'm looking at the label just to try to see if there was anything fun that we could talk about with this one. It's February 9th of 2019. And what I was doing on February 9th of 2019 was my PhD interview. Um, I had been flown out to talk to the people with the lab and everything, and one of the evenings, my friend from my master's who was out there and one of the other folks, we went out collecting. We drove pretty far out into the desert to go collecting. February, not the best time, but we still did get some cool stuff. And this is from that trip. So this was like before I had any inclination that I was ever going to move to Arizona or live out there. So I was like, I really gotta collect stuff while I'm out here. So I have stuff from Arizona if I end up not going there. Um, and as it turns out, I went there. I lived there and it was a whole thing. Um, but yeah, this is apparently one of my very, very, very first Arizona specimens ever. Hurry up, rare Arizona bugs. Oh, calm down. I'm getting there, Tortilla. I'm getting there. Do we want build up? We just want to go. I think Tortilla just wants to go. I think Tortilla just wants us to go. Do this real quick. Center everything. I don't have the vibe in which you. Oh. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Okay, 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 okay. You're good. You're good. You're absolved. I misread the room. I'm sorry. You're safe, Tortilla. You're fine. Um, it is getting late and I still need to eat. So I do try to need to hurry up a little bit. Without further ado, boom. Inflated beetle. Cystiodesmus armatus. Or Wislinzeli. I actually don't know which one this is. So y'all, you see that? You see that from the top? You're like, yeah, that's like a pretty round beetle, right? Wait till you get the wait till you get the side view. Damn! Damn, boy, she thick. So now you can see why it's called the inflated beetle. It is very bulbous, very lack of a better term. It looks inflated. Yeah, it's definitely that genus Tortilla. Um, let us get a back view. That's crazy, girl. But sure, if you want. Oil beetles. That's cool, Cricket. I actually, as crazy as it sounds, I don't have any. Um, that's like a pretty eastern group. Not generally in Florida a ton, I don't think. Maybe I'm wrong. Give me. Yeah, so there's no bug guide records for Maloa in Kansas. Or sorry, in Florida on bug guide. I could have gotten them in Kansas, I could have gotten them in Arizona, but I've never actually collected Maloa on my own. Is it always inflated? Can it fly? No. It is always inflated. I don't believe they can fly. Post the picture. Yeah, please do. Please do. So this guy runs around a lot. Is not the um I don't know where I was going with it. Runs around, yeah. Sorry, can't fly. That's where I was going with it. I did forget that I had things in. Is he fast? Yes, they are pretty fast. I'll bring one of these in because this is another one that I did collect myself, and I think this one's pretty cool. Before our big finale, I think this is Epicotta costata. Yes. This one is quite bright white. Um, but these lines, unlike on some of the other ones, they're not just differences in color. You can see there on that top one that it's actually elevated. So this thing is like ribbed, which I think is pretty cool. Uh, a costa or costata, like where this comes from, is like a raised ridge. So that is what that's where this. I almost said it. I almost said it, and then I went no. They're gonna me. If I say that, they're gonna go huh. You guys do it, it's fine. But I knew I was gonna get called out with it. um, this one, Tostata. No, sorry, Tostata. This one was pretty fun. This whole box is from the Beetle class last summer. So like right after I moved to Arizona, and then or sorry, when I moved to Florida, and then I went back to Arizona for like a month. Um, all of this stuff is from that trip, and a lot of it still needs labels. Um, this is a thing that I need to do at some point eventually. But that little group down here, this night of collecting, um, we got sandstormed, not Darude, But we had like a really, really crazy dust storm blow in while we were out there. Um, and I have a cool picture from that night too. I think this is, I don't know. Uh, but I had to have my net gator up, and the wind was blowing my hair all crazy, and I'm in like the UV light of the bug light. Um, and that was when we were collecting those blister beetles, the ones with the raised ridges. Caroline's solid as hell. Ophelia, that's the nicest lie anybody's ever said. It's down a bit in that picture. We're not gonna continue talking about my hairline. Um, but yeah, that was cool. We were getting those in the dust storm, and like our light sheet, which you guys have seen how it's set up vertically or whatever, was catching so much wind that it like blew over. And we were like, okay, we're not going to stay out here and like potentially ruin our sheet. So we were getting ready to pack up, but then all of these little blister beetles were just crawling around on the ground. And certainly we can't just let them go. Uh so we packed up the light and everything real quick, but we braved the dust storm to uh to get you get the good stuff in a second. To be able to catch that species. And we actually, I don't think we found it another night, even though we went out there quite a few times. So maybe they're only out when it dust storms. I have no idea how that works. But okay, this is going to be our last beetle. Unfortunately, it is too big to fit in the frame. Oh, there we go. So this looks, as of right now, it looks pretty similar to the Pyrota that we looked at earlier, right? The uh the spotted kind of orange and black wings. This is not Charlie Brown. Neither was the other one apparently, but very similar right now, right? You can see sort of you can see the contrast in the colors, you can see the patterning being similar. What you're not ready for is what is off the screen to the left. Huh? Slow. Oh, huh? Drum roll, please. Boom. Head game crazy. All right. So it's kind of horrific. I don't really like how it looks from the top. Um Kind of yucky. Not really feeling it. However, Look at that. Isn't that so crazy? Those mandibles are nuts. That head shape is crazy. This is a quality, quality beetle. You get the side view. You can just see how it's like he's thinking real hard. Just yeah, brain blast on this guy is nuts. But yeah, if you can believe it, this is a sometimes in the US bug. It is truly a Central and South American thing, this genus. Um, but it has been found in very, very, very South Texas. So there are records down in like Hidalgo County and whatnot. This is Society's auriculata for the bug guiders of you out there. I can drop that link. Um, auriculata, oracle, like audit or oral sort of thing, means ear. So it's talking about its big, like protruded temples on the body. Um, the eyes do wrap around pretty far. So you can see sort of under the head there where they stop, and then come around to just those little bits in the front. Oh, interesting. I'm reading and I'm learning right here along with you, chat. The adults don't eat. So why does he have these big mandibles? I don't really know. The larvae are hosts in carpenter bees, which I think makes a lot of sense. That's a really big bee, so you're going to need a big larva or a big bee to host your larva if you're going to be this big. So I think that kind of tracks. There's been quite a few. Wow, there's been quite a few records recently. Um, I remember when I still do this for fun, but just perusing different families on Bug Guide, looking and like learning different species. I remember when I first stumbled across this thing, there was only like two or three pictures on Bug Guide. And now there's 22. So either people have been adding like older pictures, or there's been like a lot of recent activity, which is pretty cool either way. There's a male female pair from 2000. Pretty neat. Um, but yeah, this is I think like the pinnacle of U.S. bliss. It's all the exciting stuff that you kind of want from a beetle, right? Big size. You guys haven't really seen kind of the scale of it yet, but it's pretty big. A rather large beetle. Got crazy morphology, so like weird head, big mandibles, but you also have bright color thrown in there. This is like this is the best of Beetle. How do you do better than that? Um, everyone always loves a big, colorful thing. Everyone loves a weird. Uh, yeah, Hannah Montana did definitely write that song about Society's Auriculata. I think Miley Cyrus is a big Blister Beetle fan. You like him? Well, I'm glad. I'm glad that that seemed to be a good one to wrap up on. Ugh. Well, that's all I had. I do have some other. We have some repeats in here. Uh, the smaller of the Cystiodesmus, and just some other kind of nondescript blister beetles. So we did not look at all of them, but we did hit the highlights, I think. And I hope you all have a deeper appreciation for the group now. Um, it's not a group that I work with a ton, but I do think they are really neat. And a lot of these specimens now are going to be more special with memories of Jeff. So was a tough one, but I do think that this was a good way to honor his legacy. He would want people to learn about Blister Beetle. Um, so that's what we did today. Thank you all for being here, and thank you all for being understanding. I don't want to cry on stream. That feels bad. um, but y'all are cool with it. I'm very lucky with this little community that we've built here. So I appreciate you all every day, but today maybe a little bit more than normal. Eat your ice cream, your celebratory Jeff ice cream. And we will be back Monday, in theory. Uh, and unless something crazy happens, which let's hope it doesn't, um, we will probably finish going through the rest of the bug soup from last weekend. T Rex Pell, thank you for the follow right here at the end. Um, but yeah, let's finish going through the soup, look at some more cool stuff. Um, and again, thank y'all for being here. Thanks for appreciating Beatles with me. Thanks for hanging out. We will be doing regularly scheduled chats on Wednesday. So y'all can tune into that over on the Alveus channel. And speaking of Alveus, I'm going to send y'all back there. All right, y'all. You know the drill. You're familiar with Alveus, I'm sure. Night, everyone. We'll see you next time. Have a good night. Bye.